Hey everybody, it's Julie Quinn here. I'm going to do a video for writing assignment number 2 based on the writing assignment sample. And one of my students, Joette, brought this to my attention and I thought, oh, you know, after we were talking about the different aspects of this text. And so thanks to her, I'm creating this video. And I like to share it with you too, to show you this student sample has the right idea for the assignment, and you can tell that there are some things that I can make recommendations on to make your final grade much higher. Okay, so the sample starts off with a title and an introduction, and you'll notice on page 1 that there's no APA cover page or MLA first page. This is not an essay, so you do not need to follow MLA or APA. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to put your name on this. Your name can be on the file itself. That's fine, because this document, having your name on it, takes away from the technical aspect of it, especially we are separating this from the traditional academic essay. So it's fine if your name is on the actual exterior of the file, but not on page 1. Don't worry about that. You see that there's a short introduction. This even could be considered a little bit long. You can just have one paragraph, just a little bit of background on what the process is to come. You'll notice that I've got my grammar and my spell checker in Word turned on. Entrees can have looks like it can have the accent or not. And sometimes when the grammar or the spell checker triggers, you can just ignore it. All right. You'll notice the name of the business is capitalized and will be consistently capitalized throughout. Let's see. You can give a full name and then shorten. I think that's absolutely normal, especially on a set of business instructions like this. But what I want to show you are a couple of things that are related to how the assignment gets graded. One of the rubric rules or rows, you know, the rubric is that grading table, and one of the rows says very explicitly, start with an imperative verb. The number 1 step does not do that. You don't actually, and I was talking to Joette about this, you don't actually need to tell your readers more information than they need. You don't need to tell them to go to a preferred web browser. They're just going to click on Chrome, or they're just going to click on Safari, whatever they use normally. So that would be considered superfluous information. Start with the imperative. Access bananablossomBistro.com. That's all you need. We've got figure 1. So remember, part of the assignment rubric said if figure needs to have the word figure and then the number. What's nicely included is a figure caption. You're welcome to run that all in the same line, and you don't want your instructions going like 20 pages if you don't have to. The other thing is that I noticed as I was going over this with your classmate is that there's some inconsistency, not just in whether we start with imperative verbs or not. This is an imperative verb, so number 2 is great. Number 3 does not. It starts with the pain point. So what if you just rearranged this? We select create account in the upper right hand corner of homepage, and homepage is one word. If you like to create an account to make ordering easier, I just rearranged it and I put it in a parentheses, and then if not, move on to step 5. So that works pretty well there. But remember, imperative verbs at the beginning, and if they repeat, who cares? You know, or if you're worried about repetition, something like choose. So we've got that consistency in how each step is organized. Simplicity is best. You don't want to have gaps, but you don't want to have an entire paragraph like a big paragraph per step. The other thing I'm noticing here is that the images for each one of these images, it's to the left of the number on page 1, to the left of the number. So first page is fairly consistent so far, right? But look at what happens when we get to page 3. The images before were starting over here, like on a boundary right here, and now they're actually to the right of this number. That's not the biggest deal in the world, but when we talk about the Park principles, this is the principle of alignment. This page is aligned where the images are all in the same line. And the figure titles start where it looks like it's sort of like tabbed in. That's okay. But the problem is that the alignment shifts on the next page. So that's something that would be good if you paid a little bit of attention to it. This image is too small, and I tend to ask students to edit their images. This one is better. It's just, as long as they start on the right, on the same consistent line, it's okay if they have different widths, because sometimes you're taking a screenshot of just a part of a page and sometimes you're showing the entire page. But make sure the page is legible or the image is legible. I can barely read that. I have my glasses on. So that's something to sort of pay attention to. You'll notice there's some other inconsistency. This says select order online in all caps. I mean, I can't tell. This image is a little too small. I guess maybe that is all caps. And it's good that this matches the font. There's a consistency of if it's in all caps on the page, you can do all caps. I also particularly like when buttons are bolded instead of quoted. I think it's just simpler and it makes the choice that you do pop. So this says choose account. Now choose account does not look like it's in all caps, although it's really tiny. You want to blow that up a little bit. So the writer is doing a good job of bolding the action to make it pop without having too many quotes. Select login. Yep, the fonts and capitalization matches, so that's really good. You'll notice here that there's some grammar issue of floating punctuation, and if you right click with the grammar checker on, you can kind of smooth out some of that. I think pickup needs to be hyphenated or option to pick up. This does say one word, so you know what? In that case, since it matches the title of that, that's fine. Not all websites use perfect grammar, so I'm actually okay with that. So a lot of this actually works very well, and the student sample would pass with flying colors, but you can get a sense of the type of feedback that I would give to a student. So rewrite, even in your sub numbers, your steps, and note, use the number steps, step 1, step 2, step 3. And if you have sub steps, you can do an A, B, that's fine, because that helps us differentiate the main and the sub steps. But don't do sub bullets. Bullets are non-sequential lists of things, of ideas, what have you. But if you want somebody to go in a sequence, it needs to be like numeral or alphabetical, that's fine. But notice you want to nest. So for A, this really should be over a little bit, simply because step A is a sub-step. It shouldn't be to the left of your main step. It needs to be bumped over. I would actually get rid of the sub-step. And the reason is if you only have one part of that order, then you don't need a list. A list should always be 2 or more. So if you have a sub-step, that's only like one sub-step as part. Oh, there's actually, oh, I see. There's actually a B there. So let's keep that one. I think what ends up happening here is that the figure interrupted the steps. One final note on the student sample. I always think, and I know this is going to be overkill, but for your upcoming assignments and the way that these are spaced, it's going to be kind of hard to tell, is this figure 2 or is this figure 2? You could modify the spacing to give more proximity where the figures are. Let's see. I'm going to turn on my, I'm going to turn on my paragraph spaces right here. And I want this, it says 1. If it says 1, that's not really, there's probably extra spacing after the line. Let's go to 0. Let's see what happens. Ooh, that's better. And the reason why I think that's better is that I know now this figure is attached here, and you can do the same for all of them. So if you wanted to be consistent, you can run it up, and then I know there's more of a white space here than there is there. So I know this title goes with this image. So if you do it with 1, you want to do it with all. That's a real important aspect of document design, especially for technical writers, is to sort of streamline the proximity and the spacing of figure titles with the figures themselves. The final thing I was going to mention, and I think this would be helpful on like page 6, but if you do it on page 6, do it everywhere, is to add what we call a figure call out. So this may seem like overkill, but when you get to so you'll add it on each step. I won't grade against if you don't have it, but it helps here with that figure 6 where you have an A and a B, which part of the sub-step is the figure related to. So if it was this one, just as an example, because you're not going to have images for every step and sub-step, that you're not required to do that. So now I know that, oh, it's going with, actually we'll make that capitalized for consistency. But now we know, okay, so it goes with the figure, and then part B, it's still part of step 6, but that's not what's happening. Or, I mean, you could also say see step 6 because you could circle both, maybe in different colors. I like how these are edited with the circles, but remember, starting with imperative verbs, consistency in alignment, consistency in spacing, run the grammar and spell checker, and make the images legible. Even if it makes us a couple extra pages for now, I think that's necessary, just so your readers can read the instructions document. So those are my notes for writing assignment number 2 off of the student sample. If you have any questions, reach out and let me know.